Trilogy for Combat and Coffee number 17. How's it going, guys?
How we doing?
How we doing? How we doing, Jimmy? How we doing? How you doing? We're gonna be reviewing some stuff. We got some fight. We got a pretty packed boxing weekend. We got Jake Paul tonight against August. Is that what say name? August. And
well,
then
it's December.
I'm gonna make
Paulie.
Yeah, but he's in August. He's in August. And then we got the big Bam Rodriguez against Sonny Edwards unification showdown tomorrow night. That should be a really interesting one, man. So here from the Pro Box TV studios, where I'm recording daily shows. Great content. Everybody check out Pro Box TV. If you get a chance, download the app. It is free, so you guys can download that, and you can get great boxing content there too. And then my personal stuff is right here at Paulie TV, where you get my personal stuff without anybody interjecting their opinion. Well, Pro Box TV,
somebody just kind of interjected right now.
Yeah, are we live?
I think I just crashed the Zoom. Is this Combat and Coffee?
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on, Magic Man?
Mr. Crash, how's it going? Mr. Zoom Crasher, what's going on?
I had to pull up and say what's good to see what's going
on.
Oh
man, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. How's everything going?
Man, everything's going well, man. Everything's going well.
You're still out on the West Coast with Jimmy?
We're still on the West Coast, man, with the best coast.
Best coast, the warm coast. Yo, I'm in Florida. Look behind me, bro. Today is cloudy as hell. It doesn't even look like Florida.
It's nice here. I brought on Clinton because he's worked Jake Paul fights, and we're going to be getting into that too.
Clinton, I've worked Jake Paul fights too.
I've been to a Jake Paul fight, so I guess we've all been influenced by this guy.
Man,
before we start,
supposed to work tonight, but Pro Box has me exclusive now. We're moving on to bigger and better things with Pro Box TV, so we've jumped off that bandwagon. So I think they replaced me. From what I heard, they replaced me with Tyron Woodley tonight. I'm going to see. We're going to see broadcast, you know?
You've never been knocked out that cold before.
I mean, it's been stopped. I mean, listen, bro. I mean, it happens. I'm not
have your reaction to that. I was there with you.
I'm not going to knock Woodley, man. I mean, he's had a terrific UFC career, man. You know, but it happened. If you fight for a long enough time, sometimes these things happen, you know?
Your final thoughts on Devin? It seems like people online think your opinion has changed on him. Has it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what are you going to do? You're not going to credit that kind of performance? I mean, that was a sick performance. And it's not about changing or not changing. I call it like I see it, guys. I don't decide on like what my opinion is going to be unless I see enough of a guy and what I see of a guy. So what I see of a guy and what I see of Devin, what I see of this guy is a guy who's getting better, a guy who feels better at 140 pounds, I think, and a guy who, could be fun to watch. Now, the things he's saying, though, do worry me a little bit, where he's talking about he wants to go up to welterweight. And when you got such a stacked weight class at 140 pounds, while the welterweight division is basically becoming devoid of big talent aside from Duran Ennis and maybe Stanionis, everybody's leaving the welterweight division. So why would you want to go to 147 pounds when 140 pounds has all of the big fights to make? So hopefully he hangs around at 140 pounds for these some of these big fights, because I think he would fit right in. I mean, he's up that level, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the head-to-head matchups, which is when they get made, that's what makes boxing great, right? It's when they don't get made that boxing fans get frustrated and people complain and all that, and then people start pointing the finger at who's avoiding who and all this other stuff. So hopefully these things can happen in 2024. We can see some good head-to-head matchups.
And you think how much do you
know
credit?
What Bill Haney, we know what Bill Haney said this week, apparently, we were talking about it on Pro Box TV, is that because Floyd never accomplished what Haney accomplished at Haney's age, which is, I guess, the undisputed title, then you can't mention Floyd with Devin Haney. So I'm trying not to laugh because he was serious when he said it. But I mean, so apparently now, we've got I don't know if this is considered hating, but I still feel like Floyd is above Devin Haney on the totem pole, but in terms of history, in terms of what accomplishments and how good of a fighter he was. But I don't know if this is going to be considered hating by the Devin brigade, but we'll see how Devin's career continues to move along.
How much do you credit going to 140 being that difference in his?
I think it helped. I think it helped for sure, but I think Devin also is getting better. I think Devin's father and him are showing that they're a good tandem as far as father train, not just father son, but also trainer fighter too. Devin executed there was a definitive game plan, and they executed it perfectly. You know, he fought a very disciplined fight, you know, and he never strayed from the game plan. Was very, very creative in terms of, and simple yet creative, which is I guess an oxymoron in some ways. But if you look at the subtleties that were being done there, it looked like a simple game plan, but it was very, very creative and executed very, very well. I mean, Devin has always, one thing Devin has always had is a lot of athleticism. So the athleticism combined with ring smarts and ring intelligence and a great game plan, good technique, you know, it was certainly something to. I think when you look back at Devin Haney's career, this might be one of the nights you're gonna say, "Wow, you know, he was really brilliant on that night." It was one because there's a handful of nights of everybody's career where you say like, "Oh, he was so good that night. He was so good that night." I think the night Devin Haney fought Regis Prograis is going to be something that people are going to look back on when they overlook Devin's career and say that on that night Devin was amazing. You know, like because you're not always super amazing every time, even if you win sometimes, but there's times when you're just a little bit extra amazing, and I think that's what Devin had. Devin had that kind of night against Prograis last week.
Yeah, Devin significantly faster than Regis, honestly, because I saw the fight live and it was not close in terms of the skill set. Like Devin
there, Clint?
That lead left.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I hear Clinton. Yeah, and
I didn't know you were at the fight.
Yeah, I got to see it live, which was nice. Working with Fight Hub, you know, we went out for all of and Devin, honestly, he looked way bigger than Regis even at the weigh-in, and like I was seeing like most of those 5 pounds went straight to muscle. Like I was like he looked significantly bigger. And even in the ring too, he looked significantly faster. You know, he kept stepping away from that lead left hand of Regis, which was really the powerhouse of Regis, like pretty much his whole game. So like you see that him and Bill executed the plan that you're talking about. And I think Bill doesn't really get the credit he deserves in terms of being like a really, really good trainer and elevating Devin's game every single fight. You know, he looked exceptional,
especially for that style. I mean, Bill actually, I was saying that even on Pro Box last week that Bill Haney is the kind of trainer for that boxing style. Yeah. And that was my boxing style. You know, on a handful of nights that I fought at my best, I had that. You know, that's what I always want to strive to look like. You look at nights like when I beat Love Morendo the first time, or fights against Juan Diaz, or Sinchenko, Judah, you know, it's the kind of style, especially earlier, maybe like the Endo fight, the first fight, because I'm still 26 years old and I still have the legs. Later on, it's a little bit of a different sharpness that I had, but like he's the kind of trainer that I would have considered working with, you know, like once I moved into the second part of my career, like post Hatton, I really tried to have more input into who was decided to be my trainer, you know, because after the first part of my career, I had let mostly other people decide who my trainer was going to be. I decided to have more input in that, and I would look for guys. You know, I went with Sharif Yunan right off the bat, then I went with Eric Brown, all very, very capable trainers, especially for my style that I had. And honestly, if I was fighting, you know, in today's generation, Bill would have also been a guy that I would have looked at to want to hire, because he has that. He trains Devin in a manner where, you know, a guy with that kind of athleticism can really, really benefit. And you can see how Devin and him have kind of gotten better and better and better as they've gone along. Devin's coming into his prime, and I think Bill also has the business know-how and the business mechanism to get the best out of Devin. So it's really, really going to be something interesting to see, because they're both with Bill guiding the ship, both as a trainer and also from the management perspective side. He's far from a dummy, and I think I'm just trying to put the words together right. You know, he's you're not going to make mistakes, you know, like obviously nobody's unbeatable, right? I'm not saying Devin now can't get beat, because I probably still think Teofimo's better than him, but I think that the maneuvers they make both in and out of the ring are going to and especially now that they've accomplished what they've accomplished, where they have more leverage, I think are going to be are going to create Devin into the star that I think they want to be. You know, I felt I've been feeling until this point that they've been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, you know, where they're making pay-per-views when he's not quite that popular yet, and all this other stuff. But I think as they've gained him more notoriety, there was more leverage on their side, I think they're going to be able to pull this off, because you also are seeing a guy who's guiding the ship, who's a good ship captain, you know, who's a very good ship captain in Bill Haney, you know, and I think the way he's understood both the business and the sport, because again, he's been a trainer as well as managing his son, I think has been impressive to see the results. You know, he's kind of he kind of goes ahead. He kind of like says things that I don't agree with them, and then I end up catching up. I'm like, okay, now I agree. You know, I don't know if I'm going to agree with the Floyd stuff though. I mean, being better than Floyd, I don't know, but nonetheless, it still makes headlines, and it's still something that you can kind of grasp onto. It becomes a conversation point. And so he's far from a dummy. Saying something like that creates conversation. It creates back and forth dialogue, no matter what your opinion is on it. And that's never a bad thing. So looking forward to seeing Haney again, honestly. I had said I wouldn't even be surprised if they just try to ease in with a first defense against like a Liam Paro who fought on the undercard and not go right for a super fight. I honestly, he's done enough for me now to where I can say, okay, it's okay. I think you earned the right to do that, you know, and I think now, you know, he's earned the right to do that. I also think had the Lomachenko win been convincing and not controversial, he'd be fighter of the year. I think not winning the Lomachenko fight convincingly puts him second best of Benavidez for me, you know, because if he'd beaten Lomachenko convincingly, you beat a guy like Lomachenko convincingly, who nobody's done really, still. And then beat Prograis the way he just beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because Benavidez beat Plant and Andrade both convincingly, and both are great fighters. But I think Haney's resume would be even better this year. I mean, beating Lomachenko convincingly and Prograis convincingly, it would be just a little better, you know. But unfortunately, because the Lomachenko had the Lomachenko fight was right there, you know.
Controversial.
Benavidez was dominant in both of his victories. I think Benavidez is probably going to get the fighter of the year, but I think Devin and Bill deserve at least nominations. You know, when there's nominations and then awards given, I think Devin deserves a fighter of the year nomination, and Bill deserves a trainer of the year nomination. And then, I think they come up just short because of that. But certainly, I think Bo Mack probably deserves trainer of the year. You know, he had a big win with Terrence Crawford, and then he also reversed the loss Chris Eubank Jr. had against Liam Smith, and he came back in the rematch. He hired Bo Mack, and Eubank Jr. dominated Liam Smith in the rematch. You know, so I think that's and he works with a lot of young guys, a lot of prospects. I think Bo Mack is probably trainer of the year, in my opinion. You know, those would probably be the guys that I would look at, but certainly Bill and Devin would deserve to be in the conversation and deserve nominations. That's how basically my feeling on all that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know anything about trying to start conversations for promotion.
I'm just saying, you know, because we're at that point in the year where you start to consider all these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I know the year's not done yet.
Conversations, yeah.
We're not done with the year yet. I mean, Jake is always conversation point. He's fighting tonight. There's a big unification fight tomorrow, bro. That fight tomorrow with Bam and Sonny is a good fight, man. That's a very good fight.
I was going to say Bam, yeah.
And the press conferences got a little bit nippy, a little bit. You know, it is fight week, guys. I want to get in, and Sonny's never been shy. So Sonny has been talking a little bit of trash. So I think that ups the ante a little bit. It's a unification, which is terrific. I think it's a really fun fight. And next week we got a big card in Saudi Arabia, bro. What about that one, bro? There's a big card in Saudi Arabia next week too.
Yeah, you know? I wanted to go back to Bam and Sonny because you have some history with Sonny. You've met Sonny in the past in the UK.
Yeah, I know Sonny. Yeah,
I met Bam before at Robert Garcia's camp house, and super nice, awesome.
Yeah.
So
no, both guys are.
I want to hear your breakdown.
I've never met Bam, but I've heard only good things.
Yeah.
You know? Sonny's a little bit of a lunatic, but he's a good kid. You know, he's one of those guys who he enjoys life, so he kind of wears it on his sleeve. You know.
What's your take on that fight?
It's an interesting fight, man. I feel like Bam being at home has an advantage, right? Also, he punches a little shorter, makes a little bit smarter decisions. But Sonny has only 4 KOs. He's got a big reach advantage. He fights in an awkward way, but he's very athletic. But there's times where Sonny gives you a chance to get in between him because even though he's got 4 KOs, he's not shy about exchanging, putting together big combinations to where he sometimes stays in the pocket too long. And he does well. But I also think he's fighting the most skilled fighter of his career in Bam. And I think if he's a little bit reckless in in throwing those big combinations that he sometimes gets emotionally involved and likes to throw for the thrill, for the crowd, and all this other stuff. I think Bam can actually get in between him. Also, Bam has some nice little angle cutters on the inside. Something that he does very well against more flat-footed guys. I think Sonny can offset that with his quick feet as well. But nonetheless, I think Bam's shorter punching gives him a little bit of an advantage here on the inside, unless Sonny can really be disciplined and keep it on the outside the whole time, which I don't think, because I don't think he has that in him, because he himself likes to fight. He himself likes to get in the trenches even when he doesn't have to. And I think when you're at close range, fundamentals have become more important. When you're athletic, you fight on the outside because you break a lot of fundamental rules. But when you're close range, it's important not to break fundamental rules, because you really can't get away with it at close range. And that's where I think if Sonny starts to engage too much at close range, Bam has some advantages, you know. I slightly favor Bam in this fight, but it's a good fight. And I could also see if Sonny fights a very disciplined fight on the outside, you're going to create a lot of problems for Bam, and then you're looking at a situation where can Sonny get a decision at the end of it, if that's what happens, you know, because you're still in Arizona.
Is this one of the biggest flyweight matchups we've seen in a while? I haven't heard of.
Listen,
the most excited I've ever been for a flyweight.
I mean, listen, you had Chocolatito, Cuadras, and Estrada around not long ago, you know.
Yeah, but the personalities of Sonny and Bam clashing.
Yeah, you know what it is.
UK
most of the guys who are of this weight that are big names aren't American or English speaking, right? So a lot of times there's always good fight. There's a lot of good fighters in these weight classes, but being that they're not English speaking, it's kind of, you sort of lose some of it, because a lot of the big fights in this weight class tend to happen in like Japan and stuff, you know. So when you have that, though, when you've had that here, you have created rivalry. Like the last American born guy at Bam's weight that was this, you know, getting this popular, I think, was probably Michael Carbajal, who was the 1988 Olympic silver medalist and then had an amazing professional career, and I believe he's a Hall of Famer. Otherwise, you know, you don't get a lot of that. You know, you don't get a lot of the Americans, English speaking, especially American born guys. You know, Ricardo Lopez was a big name, but Ricardo Lopez was a Mexican, and he made a big name, but he didn't speak English. Carbajal had a big rivalry with Chiquito Gonzalez, where they fought 3 times. He was Mexican. That was a monster rivalry. That was, I think, the first $1 million fight where between flyweights. You know,
I didn't know that Bam was from Texas. I thought he was Mexican. That's actually.
No, Bam is Bam. I thought Bam was from Arizona. I didn't realize he was from Texas either. I knew he was American, Mexican American though. And Sonny, of course, speaks English because he's from the UK.
I've seen so much Sonny on Twitter. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, Sonny is a huge personality. Sonny could be like Sonny could probably have a post-fight career as like an internet personality, a YouTuber. You know, because he's that kind of guy. You know,
he's the guy that came in to spar him.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, Sonny's that kind of guy. Exactly. He'll do that kind of stuff. I first met Sonny in Europe in like 2015. Man, you know, like he's always been a big personality. So
does he remind you of yourself a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit he does. Yeah, a little bit he does. You know, he's got that moving style. I think he engages more than I try to.
Yeah.
But he's got that moving style. Not a lot of big power, but he engages. He's got a moving style. He's got a big personality. He likes to talk trash, not shy. And a little bit of a wacko, you know, a little bit of a wacko outside the ring, which I sometimes was too. Yeah. But it's a fight I'm looking forward to, man. This will be a fun fight. It's a fun weekend between tonight with Jake and then tomorrow with that. I mean, it's a fun weekend. I know a lot of the pure boxing fans are like, forget Jake, bro. I'm watching. You're watching. We're watching tonight. I don't care what you guys say.
Jake tonight is great because it's Friday night. It's kind of seems so. Back in August, well, we're gonna do a pun with this. He's fighting on Andre August. Back in August, he fought Nate Diaz. What'd you take from that fight, and what can he implement into this fight?
I don't know. I still didn't see the adjustment with the feet. I think let's see how August's feet are tonight. You know, because that was the problem he had with Tommy Fury, where you could see that Jake hadn't made the adjustment with his feet. And again, when a boxer knew how to take advantage of that. So with Nate, you really couldn't see any of that because Nate had, the same mistake MMA fighters tend to make when they fight in boxing. They kind of cross their feet and they don't have that boxing footwork. The only guy I've seen come from MMA and adjust the footwork smoothly was Ngannou with Fury fight. He actually, he wasn't walking. He was shuffling his feet. He was sliding. Even super athletes like McGregor and Anderson Silva had bum footwork when they came to boxing. You know, they didn't adjust it at all. They had, you know, basically idiot trainers who didn't make an adjustment. I'm sorry to basically break that to them. But, you know, Ngannou clearly had a smart, intelligent team behind him because they adjusted his feet. And that footwork adjustment really played a big part, I think, in that fight. So I think it's an adjustment that Jake has had to also make. As well, I think it's what hurt him most in the Tommy Fury fight. So that's what I'm going to be looking at tonight. You know, I don't know if August level too much. I know it's not a great level, even though he's 10-1, but still, he's a boxer, so he should at least have the footwork that should force Jake to show some adjustments in his footwork. So that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight.
Andre August has fought once in the past 4 years. This is Jake's 9th fight. He's 7-1. Does this just look like a typical prospect fight, like any other prospect would have, rather than Jake's pay-per-views he's done?
This is what I'm saying. People complain because Jake's got a big name, so his prospect fights get a lot more attention than other prospect fights would. If you look at my 9th pro fight, who did I fight? I mean, if you go to BoxRec, look at my 9th pro fight. You know, who did I fight at my 9th pro fight? I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that much of a difference if there even is a difference. I mean, granted, okay, I was fighting active guys. This guy's been all 4 years. But again, you got to keep in mind, Jake also hasn't had an amateur career. He's learning on the job, dude. You know, like, so he's not changing. He's not like reinventing the wheel. He's fighting as a prospect, and he's taking his time fighting as a prospect, and he's learning on the job, just like any prospect does. And honestly, he's not fighting much lesser opposition than any other prospect on their way up, if you really look at it. You know, even guys that have become champions or guys that have, you know, reached a certain level and fallen off. But regardless, this is the road of a prospect. That's what Jake is doing. It's not different than any other prospect, unless you're talking about double gold medalists like Lomachenko or Rigondeaux, you know, for the most part, or even silver or gold medalists. You know, for the most part, this is the way a prospect moves, even when he has an amateur career. Unless it's like a super stellar amateur career, you know?
You fought Jadashi Green, who was 6-1 at the Mountaineer Casino Racetrack and Resort in Chester, and you won off a unanimous decision.
Let's go.
And then Joshi, I remember Joshi as a guy I still keep in touch with on Instagram. Joshi was a multiple-time Golden Glove champion from Michigan. He was you had an amateur career. He was 6-1. I remember he was a pretty good puncher too. I think he had like 5 knockouts and those 6 wins. And that fight was actually, if I remember correctly, it was one of the swing bouts on an ESPN show. So you might find that one on YouTube, actually. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, okay, he's 6-1. What's the difference? He's active, and he had probably more of an amateur career than August. But again, Jake didn't have an amateur career. He's still fighting a guy 10-1, which means no matter what the guy's level is, he's going to come to win. When you got a 10-1 record, you don't show up just as an opponent. You know, when you're 10-10, you'll see how the guy is, and if he's that good, you'll kind of pack it in. If you see yourself that you can win it, you'll try a little harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, when a guy's 6-1, even if you crack him a few times, he's still trying to win. When a guy's 10-1, like Jake's fighting tonight, you crack him a few times, he's still going to try to win. You know, so it's still par for the course for a prospect to fight this kind of level. I don't think Jake is reinventing the wheel. He's just doing what a prospect does. So there's nothing to criticize. It's not like he's trying to take shortcuts. He's fighting just what any prospect is doing. But because he's more popular, people want to see him fight a top 10 guy. What average prospect in boxing fights a top 10 guy in his 9th pro fight? You saw my career ended up becoming a 2-time world champion. I was U.S. amateur champion in the amateurs. Okay. 2-time New York Golden Glove champion in the amateurs. And in my 9th pro fight, that's who I was fighting. Okay. Is it that much of a difference? You know, like this is kind of par for the course. That's what I try to tell people. No matter what is going to become of Jake's career at the end of it, or no matter how far he goes, you're still looking at the road he's taking. It's not different than any other prospect. He's not taking shortcuts. He's doing it the right way. You just expect more because he's more popular than your average prospect in that phase. Because in that phase, when a guy's just getting his notoriety, just trying to build his record, there's not a lot of notoriety, so there's not a lot of demands for or criticism or one or the other, unless he starts to really win and look good, right? So I think people also a little bit. There's people that are way too much on the Jake Paul bandwagon when they're overdoing it, when they're not boxing fans and they just overdo it. And then there's people, the boxing fans, a lot of times I feel like are too critical of the Jake Paul bandwagon because, again, if you look at it, he's genuinely trying. And if he's going to genuinely try, I can't knock it, you know, and he's going to genuinely do it. He's genuinely doing it the way a boxing prospect does it. And again, he has no amateur career. I was U.S. amateur champion. You know what I mean? I was 2-time New York Golden Glove champion. So
wait, you're what?
I was two-time New York Golden Glove champion and a U.S. amateur champion. I won the U.S. championship in 2001. But what I'm saying is the amateur career you have, gets you a little bit more notoriety if it's like super amateur career. If it's like an Olympian or not even just an Olympian, an Olympic medalist, And most guys aren't going to do that. So most guys are taking the same road Jake Paul's taking. Most prospects are taking that road. So not just a Jake Paul thing. It's an all boxing prospecting.
What do you think about his stance on becoming a world champion? Let me quote, "I possess the talent, hard work, skill set, and all the attributes of world champion, so that I am already and I'm willing and manifesting the rest into existence to become world champion." Do you fully heart believe that statement made by Jake Paul, the former Disney star turned boxer?
Okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because people are gonna say, "Oh no." Okay, what guy starts boxing with the intention to become a club fighter? What boxer what guy starts boxing with the intention of just, you know what? I'm just gonna, become an opponent for somebody. My goal is to become an opponent. My goal is to become a journeyman. Everybody's goal is this. When they're boxing, when they're starting, every single person that walks to a boxing gym and starts boxing competitively, their ultimate goal is always going to be that. You know what I mean? So he's just saying things that you're supposed to say. Also, keep in mind, the cruiserweight division is not as stacked typically as other weight classes. If there is a hole, if there is a spot, if there's a vacuum to be filled with a world championship that could be filled, it is the cruiserweight division, which Jake fights in. The cruiserweight division has had your Usyks and your Holyfields and your David Hayes and Jean-Marc Mormex. Off the top of my head, some great cruiserweights that I'm thinking about.
I love that.
O'Neal Bell. There have been some, but then there's also been, your Macabus of the world who Badu Jack just beat to win the cruiserweight title against. You know what I'm saying? There's things that, there's sometimes there's a little bit of a hole in the cruiserweight division where you could grab something. So I'm not gonna say for sure Jake wins a world title, but I don't think he's off base to talk about the goal of winning a world title. I don't think I don't think anybody who starts boxing with anything less in mind.
I train, but I do want to become a world champion one day. So facts.
Yeah, I mean, no. You're not competing. You're not competing. You haven't had any amateur fights, have you?
No, I would die.
No. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's not the same. I'm talking about whoever starts competing in combat. Whoever starts competing. Doesn't matter. I'm talking about competing when you get results, whether it was a winner or a loser. Nobody starts competing in boxing with the goal of saying, I'm gonna be a club fighter. You're either gonna. Some people start competing with saying, I want to have a few amateur fights. Just say I did it. Sure, no problem. Yeah. But whoever wants to compete long term never competes long term with the goal in mind of becoming a journeyman. It's not. Everybody has the goal to become somebody big. Now, most people don't make it, yes, of course. But everybody who commits to this has the goal to become a world champion. So Jake's not speaking, and nobody else is thinking when they start boxing and they start competing.
His YouTube, 22 million subscribers. The combination of the 5 big boxing promotions is about 5 to 7 million. That's 4 times the amount of influence on the second biggest search platform in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that influence is the reason why we see him and the reason why he's being judged as this big entity, but really he's just a prospect. And that's why I made up a fake stat.
Good for you, Jimmy. Don't take no shit from no one. Good stuff. Yeah. Show all you need is De Niro putting the money down. Don't take no shit from no one.
That is true, though. If you look at his subscribers and you combine them and compare him to all the boxing promotions, how light years ahead he is compared to them, and then look at his age base, I'd say 200% is a modest.
Is a fair estimate. All right. But I can't give estimates though. I have to.
Don't use that.
I have to give documented evidence. Okay. All right. No problem.
Don't quote him on that, Paulie. Don't quote him on that.
No problem. All good. All
right. Well, let's round this out with your prediction on that fight, and then explain it, Paulie. What's your prediction? How's Jake gonna handle August in December?
I think Jake is gonna stop August. I think Jake is going to stop August, give or take around round 5 or 6. Wow. Yeah, I think I don't know a lot about August, and there is a reason he hasn't fought in 4 years. And yes, his level of opposition hasn't been the highest. And one thing about when you haven't been active, like Jake's been active, your level of intensity kind of leaves you, kind of wanes, because you're not used to that intensity. Jake has been used to that intensity. He's been consistent. He's been fighting consistently. He's been training consistently. I'm sure August trained for the fight, obviously, but to go into a competitive aspect of the competitive aspect of boxing with the small gloves and that level being intense and that level being raised to that intensity, it's not something you're used to unless you're active, and even yesterday at the weigh-in, I thought Jake was very, very intense when he crawled up to him like that,
I'm going to say Jake by decision based off of the fact that I haven't really seen tape on August, so I'm not going to make some brash.
I haven't seen a lot on August either, but when a guy hasn't fought in 4 years, it doesn't bode well.
Clinton?
I think it's going to be an 8th round knockout from Jake Paul.
Ooh,
I think him with something good. I think he's probably going to figure him out by round 6. I say.
Is it gonna be the one-hitter quitter he hit Tyrone with? Or even Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson. Jake has some highlight reel knockouts.
He's got the right hand. Got the right hand.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit him with something good.
I'll put up the clip when we went to the fight. I mean, Paulie, we were at that fight together. Remember?
Yeah. I was kind of shocked.
Yeah,
and I
have a pic. That's our first video.
The kind of people that watch Jake Paul fights. I mean, bless them, because there's a lot of dumb people. They thought it was a setup, dude. Are you nuts? He's out cold, and for him to let himself get hit with that shot without even flinching, even if it was set up. Okay, well, I'm gonna hit you with the shot, but who wouldn't flinch with that shot coming? You'd at least flinch. No shot. I mean, he took it cleanly because he didn't see it coming, and that's why he didn't flinch. It was not acted out. That he's knocked out, man.
It was insane. The people that don't know boxing, of course, would say rigged and all this other shit.
Yeah, of course. Nah, that's man. We were sitting on the floor. We heard that shot when it landed, man. That thing was like a bomb went off, man. I'm telling you, whoever could just eat that on purpose. People talk a lot, but nobody's eating that on purpose. Nobody's eating that shot on purpose. There's easier ways to throw a fight.
Oh my God, that's such facts. I wanted to ask you too. Did you see Andy Cruz? In an undercard.
Yeah. Andy Cruz is one of those guys that we talk about super amateurs, where he's going to move faster, right? That's something, the majority of guys are not that, but Andy Cruz is one of those super amateurs where he's going to gaining a lot of notoriety, gaining a lot of hype because he had a massive amateur career, Olympian and all that, Cuban defector, all that stuff. And of course he's going to move faster, and he gets the first stoppage of his career. I think it was the first stoppage of his career, right? He's 1-0, 1 knockout now. And a lot of big things are expected of Andy Cruz, man, so he could move into the contention picture pretty fast, and the lightweight division now is kind of open, a little bit more open than it was before, because you have a lot of the guys that have moved up to 140 pounds, but you still got Shakur Stevenson, you still got Gervonta Davis there, and sadly, you're probably going to still have a weight class where nobody fights anybody anyway. The problem is everybody moves in parallel lines and nobody goes into each other's road, and fights each other. Hopefully that stops happening, because I think that's a big reason why boxing is being abandoned by a lot of networks. These people don't understand. When the guys don't make the fights, they look out for themselves, but they don't understand that they're killing the road. They're unpaving the road for the guys behind them. Because if too many networks drop boxing, you're going to have a big problem. Because then all the guys behind you can't get paid and can't get seen and can't make a living off this. So there's a responsibility for every fighter of a high level to make sure that they take those fights. That when those fights become in demand, they make them at the right time, because it's going to be on them. It's going to be on those kind of fighters if boxing gets abandoned by the networks, and then the fighters coming behind them don't get those chances.
Yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts on what you think is going to happen in terms of like Paramount Plus coming into the game and like Amazon and PBC now merging. Like, how do you think that's going to affect the fight game, and how do you think it's going to affect like fighters going forward in terms of trying to get these bigger fights?
Well, as far as like PBC and the Amazon deal, I assume it's a replacement for the Showtime deal. But the only thing I heard is also that PBC is going to be paying for the production. At Showtime, they didn't pay for the production, so that's an extra cost. So that's an extra cost, and that's a big cost. Production isn't cheap. So if PBC is going to be paying for the production on the Amazon shows,
except here at Paulie TV.
What I'm saying, that's why we're low production, because we're an upstart company, Jimmy. We don't
nationwide.
We don't put on championship fights here. We just talk.
Soon, eventually, they'll come to us.
But I think that that's going to probably be taken out of the pocket of the fighters, some of those expenses and whatnot. But you got to still be thankful that those fighters have they have a platform. But PBC has a lot of fighters on the contract, and honestly, 12 to 14 dates a year is not enough. PBC is always has been the kind of promotional entity that has needed more than one network. So it's still going to be interesting to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that firsthand working with them and with the Danny Garcia fight.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I mean, before they had Fox and Showtime, and that was, they were able to get enough dates for fighters. But bro, only Amazon, it's not going to be enough because there's not enough dates there, So they're going to have to either come up with another contract, or they're going to start to lose fighters, to other promoters.
Well, to quote Drake, Al Heyman checks off of all of my events. Let's see if that continues.
Well, Heyman's a music guy, that's why.
Yeah. And to round this out, you got Bam, and then you got Jake, and then next week we'll handle next week.
The Saudi card next week. All right.
The Saudi card next week. And to round this out, your 3 candidates for Fighter of the Year, Boxing Social, Mrs. Kristen Carroll did a story on you yesterday naming it looked like you chose Benavidez, Inouye, and Haney. Is that correct?
Yeah. Those are
stand by that.
But Inouye's not fully done yet, because remember, Inouye has a fight against Tapales.
Okay.
So Inouye still has a chance to really, if he blows away Tapales, who is a really difficult guy. Tapales is no joke. He has a chance to maybe overtake Benavidez, or fall behind Haney too. I mean, for me, those are the top 3 in order, and those are my nominations essentially,
All right. Well, Combine Coffee.
But they're not. It's not, like I said, it's not done yet, because right now I got Benavidez in the lead, but Inouye hasn't fought to found around that theory. His fight is on.
Even with no real belts, and not real belts, because he still has the interim belt, and it's just those wins.
Benavidez.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't put a gun to Canelo's head and shoot him, or you can't threaten to shoot him if he doesn't fight Benavidez. You can't put a gun to Canelo's head and threaten to shoot him. That's what I meant. Okay, you can't put a gun to Canelo's head and threaten to shoot him if he doesn't fight Benavidez. So
he'll probably slip that shit easy quick.
In a weight class where Canelo has unified all of the belts, there's pros and cons to that, because now, if you didn't unify all the belts, Benavidez might be able to just grab one of the other ones, and then you can play the Spence and Crawford game. Well, you got a belt, I got more belts. We're going to negotiate for 10 years, and then we're finally going to fight at the end, or not fight at all. That sometimes happens. But because you decided to get all 4 belts, there is a monster in the weight class who's looking so good that there is absolutely no excuse that he doesn't get a title shot. And because you have all of the belts, now you backed yourself into a corner where you either got to vacate to avoid him, or you got to fight him. And so the fact that Benavidez is not fighting for a world championship, that doesn't come into play, because he's being absolutely clearly avoided by Canelo.
Well, hopefully I think next September they're looking at that date. So
yeah.
We'll
get
answers.
Do you think it happens?
Do I think it happens? I mean, I don't have a gun to Canelo's head, so.
Good one.
I think there's a better chance Canelo fights Jake Paul than there is he fights Benavidez.
Honestly, though. Though.
Well, we'll find out how good Jake Paul looks this weekend. See if Canelo wants those chops and fight of the year, fight of the century.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, Paulie. What's
Paulie.
Up for you? You got Pro Box in 2 weeks?
No, that's it. Pro Box is done for the year. We're gonna do a year in review show and all this other stuff. As far as live fights too, and we do daily shows. But as far as live fights are concerned, we're off till January 17th.